Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Pam Sidor. I'm a librarian at Radnor Memorial Library in Wayne, Pennsylvania, and I'm in my remote location. In fact, it feels like the Atlantic Flyway. There's birds going over my head here as I have the light coming in the window. So thank you for joining us in this difficult time. Um, I'd like to thank my director and my producer now, Annie Lefley, director of Radnor Memorial Library, and thanks again for joining us. I thought of Darla right away when I knew I had to present virtual programs. I thought of all my friends over the years that have presented in the Windsor Room, and I would like to introduce Darla Demorrow to you right now. Darla, I've known Darla for many years. I remember way back when she came to the library with her young children, and I found out right away that she had written a book called The Pregnant Entrepreneur. Just loved the title. And then after I started doing events, it was just natural for me to invite Darla to do a program in the Windsor Room. I know that she has since written a book series, perhaps, Sort and Succeed. I know that she works with mainline television, and at mainline television, she does Organizing Elephants, and so that's our connection. We're all connected actually through mainline television and Vince. So it's really nice that we have Darla here today, and Darla will be presenting Saving Lives Through Organizing Photos. And perhaps people, when they're done homeschooling children and doing everything else around the house, they'll find time to do this, get those photos out from under the bed, and perhaps go into your computer and get things organized. So Darla, welcome.
Thank you, Pam. Wow, that was a great introduction. Thank you so much for having me on today. And I'm here in my home office too, so we're all in this together, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and hopefully you will be able to see the slides. And you're exactly right. I am hoping that folks will save lives in another way than we're talking about with the pandemic, but we're talking about saving your photos with Sort and Succeed. My company is Heartwork Organizing, and I'll be your photo organizing guide through the rest of this presentation.
One more thing, Darla, I have a surprise.
Oh, you do? Great. I love surprises.
Remember that?
I do, yes. You have the giveaway that I offer, or that I give to everybody who comes to a presentation. Well, I can't do that.
The original one that you gave to me when you presented, and I still have it.
Fabulous. That is fabulous, Pam. I'm glad you do. That is, that's what I try and do is be out there supporting the community and provide information so that you can find me years and years later. People might be watching this presentation and may not be ready to take action just yet, but you can always find me. I've been in Radnor for, do the math here, 12 years. Yeah. I'm a Radnor community member, and I love my library. So you know that I'm in there all the time. So.
Okay, well, take it away, Darla. I'm just going to sit here and listen to your presentation. Thanks again for being with us.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my slides, and I'd like to start by asking why you are here today and why you're interested in organizing your photos. Now, some people come to this presentation because they've heard that they can make their own family yearbooks, and they're interested in doing that. You might have a milestone birthday or an anniversary coming up that you want to commemorate. You might like to share your photos with people, I would usually say, who live far away, but right now it could be people who are in your own neighborhood or close by family members that you aren't able to see on a regular basis because of the pandemic that's going on. You might just want to, be able to get your old photos onto your phone so that you can share, what was going on in the last century with your kids, before cell phones. They won't believe how we used to live, right? But I hope that throughout this presentation, you remember that I'm here to help you tell your story. So I want to start by telling a little bit of my story. My company helps people organize their stuff, their information, and their time for the last 15 years. But about 5 years ago, we noticed there was an ongoing problem and a looming problem with photos. And that's when we joined an organization called the Photo Managers, which is an international industry association dedicated to helping families and businesses save their photos. Because everyone has a story, but can you find yours? So, for example, in this picture that you're looking at, absolutely everybody knows where this was taken. If you've ever been to Paris, you will absolutely have a picture of the Eiffel Tower in your personal collection. But did you know that at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, there's not one, but several playgrounds and actually carousels? I did not know this before I took a trip with my young daughter who's in the photo. And so this photo is important to me, and it's different than every other Eiffel Tower picture out there because it tells my story. So I'd like to ask you, what's your story? And can you find the pictures that represent your story in the thousands or maybe tens of thousands of photos that are in your collection? And are you lucky enough to have inherited vintage photos in your collection as well? The beautiful young lady on the left is my grandmother, and the gentleman on her right, the very handsome gentleman on her right, is her brother Sam. So he'd be my great uncle Sam. Now, this couple is only two of a bunch of siblings in their family, and they have a pretty recognizable last name. Their last name is Studebaker. Yep, we are directly related to that
Wow.
famous car family. So when I was young, I want to tell this story about this photo. When I was young, the largest wall in my grandmother's home held dozens of family photos from her 7 children and their children, who would be my cousins. That gallery wall was really important to me growing up. It helped me stay connected to the cousins, many of whom I wouldn't see for years on end. My family was very far flung. When I was in my early 20s, I told my grandma how I had always admired this particular photo of her and her brother because I just thought it looked so glamorous. And she surprised me that day by walking over to the wall, taking the photo off the wall, and putting it in my hands. I can't tell you how special that one little act made me feel. I want to tear up even when I'm telling this story years and years later, and I tell this story all the time. But that photo is still displayed in my home and probably, honestly, had some small part in leading me to the work that I'm doing today. So again, my company is called Heartwork Organizing. We're based in Radnor. I have written, as Pam said, I've written several books, one of which is a business book for pregnant women. I wasn't even going to talk about that. But I also have 3 books out, including Organizing Your Home with Sort and Succeed, which I know the library owns. And my most recent one, which just came out this January, believe it or not, I'm not making this up, and it's called The Upbeat Organized Home Office. Who knew absolutely everybody in the world was going to need a home office before March was out? So we organize typical projects like closets, kitchens, and much, much more. But I'm also a certified photo organizer with the international organization called the Photo Managers. And in 2015, I was actually named the Digital Photo Whiz by Philadelphia Magazine. My staff and I turn photo chaos into family treasures. So today on this presentation, I'm thrilled to educate and inspire you to finally do something with your photos. I'm going to share a 5-point photo roadmap so that you can start enjoying your photos again. You'll also learn the 5-step system called Sort and Succeed to organize anything, which also includes photos. And we're going to talk about physical photos and memorabilia, as well as digital photos and documents. I want you to feel successful as you organize your photos, But at the end, I'll be sharing an invitation to learn more because this topic is both very broad and very deep. My hope is that with the roadmap and the system I'm going to share, you'll be inspired to spend more time with your photos. So what exactly is the problem today? Well, very simply, we are drowning in photos. The sheer volume of pictures we take each day is staggering. We have so many photos that we can't enjoy them. Here are just some interesting stats for you. Instagram, which is a social media platform that's only been out since 2010, has 40 billion with a B photos on it. In 2020, right now, it's expected that 95 million photos are being uploaded to Instagram each day. And Facebook, which many of us have been on for much longer, has 350 million photos uploaded each day. I'll be honest, I can't even wrap my head around numbers that big. But here's some perspective. Humans today take more photos in 2 minutes, every 2 minutes in 2020, than existed in the entire 150 years, in the entire photo collection that existed in the world 150 years ago. So 150 years ago, every single photo, if you added all the photos that existed up to that time, we're taking that many photos every 2 minutes. And you may think, oh, well, we're not taking so many with the pandemic. Actually, video has taken over the pandemic, and just by virtue of you being on this call, you know that video and photos are still important to our world today. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you are not alone. I mean, have you thought about or looked at or looked up how many photos are on your phone or computer right now? And it's very possible that it might feel overwhelming. Well, here's the solution. It's 5 words, and it's a roadmap for your story. It's been said that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. I asked a minute ago why you decided to listen to this class. Hopefully you have at least one photo project in mind. And if you keep your goal in sight, these 5 steps are going to become your roadmap. They are very simply gathering, organizing, protecting, sharing, and maintaining your photo collection. Now, you don't have to do or complete everything all at once. In fact, many of our photo organizing projects for our clients take place over weeks and often over months. And that's when my staff and I are actually, spending big chunks of dedicated time on them. So you may not have that opportunity, and it may actually take you a very long time to organize your photos. It can be a large project, but this roadmap with these 5 words will help you stay on track. Let's overlay the sort and succeed system onto our 5-step roadmap so we can anticipate where you might get stuck while organizing your photos and how to push past it. You'll see that these 2 models fit very nicely together. When you start to organize your photos, again, go back to what your specific goal is. This can be the hardest step. If you think about organizing a lifetime of memories, that's just too big of a project for most people. But you can succeed by breaking down an overwhelming project into smaller statements and goals like, today, I'm just going to gather all of my print photos in the dining room. Once you do that, then you organize into groups. Keep it simple by grouping together similar items, like print photos in one area, CDs and DVDs in another, VHS tapes in another, slides if you have them, films, which a lot of people have, framed photos set aside in another group, keepsakes in another group, and all of your other digital media, drives, jump drives, that sort of thing in another spot. Only after gathering your entire collection together and organizing into groups do you want to start reducing and releasing, which is step 3. Believe it or not, there is trash in almost every collection. Empty photo albums, duplicate prints, broken frames. There's most likely some of this in your collection too. You'll reset your physical collection with meaningful tab dividers and labels to prepare for scanning. And then you'll create digital albums of photos on your computer. This is where some people get stuck again. But knowing that you're already halfway to the end of your project, you can see the end in sight. Now, tweaking your storage might include investments in archival, photo-safe storage boxes and albums, and handing your photos off to be scanned, or printing beautiful photo books. And then the last step, succeed and celebrate. How do you know when you're done? When can you celebrate? Each project has a different end state, of course, but you'll never really be done as long as you continue taking new pictures. But you can celebrate, you know, a milestone birthday or something like that with a slideshow, or have the satisfaction of seeing year after year of family yearbooks stack up on your bookshelf. Beautiful family yearbooks like these take time to create, but people are telling me that they want to use the time at home during the coronavirus pandemic to finally make their family albums, or even the long overdue baby books. So let's start with your printed photos. As you start organizing your printed photos, your very first goal is to gather them together. Placing them on a large flat surface like a dining room table is perfect. Most people organize chronologically, but you may sometimes prefer a theme like time at vacation home or Christmases through the years. Don't get stuck on, you know, when something exactly happened. Exact dates, you know, they may not be printed on the back of your photo. You can probably identify at least the decade on an initial sort, and then you'll be able to order them more accurately as you look at them even more. And don't get stuck on perfection. You can get a lot of organizing done if you allow yourself to do a good enough job. Spend the most time on your A photos. We call those the A photos because they're the best ones, which are also the ones that you'd be willing to spend money on preserving or transforming into albums. And that's the first part of our ABC paradigm that I teach people. You'll also find some B quality photos in your collection. These aren't your best or most important pictures, but you may not be ready to part with them or toss them, and that's fine. But if you wouldn't be willing to spend money on preserving and transforming them into scans, what we normally do is recommend that you just put those aside in a box. And then the C photos are definitely not your best photos, and those can go in the trash can. Yep, you are definitely allowed to toss photos if they don't really contribute to your story, because remember, we're here to tell your story. Now, there are some tools of the trade, and before you get down to business, you'll want to collect some simple supplies to help you with this project. Professional photo organizers consider these tools of the trades the must-haves for when they start any project. So some simple 5 or 6 they're very simple and easy to get your hands on, especially right now, are, first off, cotton gloves. We like to wear cotton gloves to protect against the oily residue that comes off of your hands and can further damage your precious and fragile photographs. Face masks are also great because printed photos might smell musty if they were stored in an attic or an out-of-the-way space. They may contain mold spores that you could find irritating during the process, and lucky us, everyone has a face mask now. You also want a soft lead, blue or black art pencil, and that's to include a date, a year, or names on the back of a photo. You never want to use a pen on your photos. Index cards can help you keep track of your progress while you're grouping photos together, and you can also use them to jot down more details, facts, stories, and dates. Index cards can be scanned with your printed photos so that important photo information can be grouped together. You also might want to get some archive quality photo-safe storage boxes, which can keep your photos safe and aid while you're actually doing the sorting process. And this might be new for you. Dental floss and a hairdryer can help you remove photos from stubborn and deteriorating peel and stick albums. Oh, those are the worst. So dental floss and a hairdryer can help you out there. I included this picture because it's an example of photos that were quickly sorted by year and marked with an index card. These are being stored in the archival safe photo boxes you see behind there, and they're waiting for the next step to be scanned. You also see that some other media turned up with this photo collection. That includes a VHS tape, some slides, an old floppy disk, remember those? And even a roll of film. We see that quite often. With the right tools like index cards, a project like this, just quickly sorting your photos, can take very little time. But while sorting, take care not to get lost down memory lane just now. You want to stay focused on your project so you can tell the whole story and not just a part of it. While print pictures are in everyone's closet, most people today take photos on their phone. But remember, we only went digital around 2005 or so. Wouldn't you love to have your old photos available where you also enjoy your new photos? You don't have to scan your old photos, but it sure is fun. You can convert almost everything these days into a digital format, including photos, VHS tapes, slides, and films. Yes, you can DIY it, but I don't recommend it. To get really high quality scans, you'll want to work with professional equipment and be confident about the file settings and the metadata, and you want to work with up-to-date software. I'd hate to see you turn organized photos into a digital mess. You'll also want to have the appropriate sized scans so that you can create fun projects with them and then pass them down to future generations. If you end up with poor quality scans, you'll have real trouble down the road doing anything with them. And I don't know if you can still see my office, but in my office, we have thousands of dollars of scanning equipment, and each scanner does a particular job. So there's not one one-size-fits-all photo scanner. And we definitely don't recommend scanning your entire precious photo collection with your smartphone. So moving on to digital photos, whether your photos are born digital or you convert them from prints, there's no question the future is digital. Just like we did for photo prints, you'll want to start by gathering all your digital media together in one place. And we're going to call that the hub, but it's really just your computer in most cases. It doesn't have to be, but that's our preference. As our photo collections are getting larger, by the way, your storage may also need to get larger over time as well. Consider that you might at some point have to upgrade or add to your computer memory to contain your entire photo history. The photo management software that you choose will also be a function of whether you use a Mac or a PC, an Android or an iPhone, and also what you want to do with your photos. There are dozens of photo management programs available, but we usually recommend to our clients that they start with whatever came on their computer and also what you're familiar with. Now, you'll want to capture the information about the photos as well, and that's an important function of your photo management software. Information about the photo includes when and where it was taken and who's in the photo. Some of that information comes directly from your camera or your smartphone, and some of it you might add later. That's all called metadata, and it's the modern version of writing on the back of a photo. As you gather your photos together, check your metadata on each batch to ensure that the information that's important to you is actually staying with the photo. This may sound complex, but here's something that will make it all more manageable. Get familiar with your delete key. The delete key is one of the most important organizing tools that we have. When you delete the trash out of your digital collection, you can actually spend more time on your important photos. Digital has a lot of great features as well. And one of the great beauties of digital is that we can all have great photos, even if we aren't great photographers. I am not a photographer, a professional photographer, but I can still make your photos look great. So I recommend that you learn to use the basic editing tools on whatever phone or photo management software you use, because then you can turn a bad or a mediocre photo into a special memory. My favorite editing commands are crop, magic wand, which is also sometimes called auto enhance, exposure, shadows, and straightening. So you want to go look for your editing controls and know where they are. And don't give up on damaged photos if you find them in your print collection. By converting those to digital, we can repair irreplaceable photos like this one. This was the only photo of my client's grandmother at this particular event. Not only did we repair the black mark right over the middle of her face, but we corrected the color, and the water damage at the edges was also fixed. Now, we've even removed ex-husbands from important photo collections, so there can be a lot done with your old photos. When you go digital, we recommend the 3-2-1 backup method, which means 3 copies of your collection on at least 2 different media, one of which is in the cloud. We recommend that your backups are automatic, and you can usually do that with an external hard drive that's always plugged into your computer. And we also recommend that you also have an automated cloud service, something like Carbonite or Backblaze. Those are 2 that I'll use. Think about how many photos you take on a daily basis. If you were to forget to back up even just 1 month of photos and something were to happen to your computer, you could lose some really important photos. But in this day and age, I'm recording this in 2020, we don't have to lose any photos ever again as long as you have your backups in place. We do recommend an automated backup on a Seagate or a WD or any other brand, quite frankly, of external hard drive. We do recommend that you start with at least 2 terabytes, although these days you can get drives up to 4 and 5 terabytes for under $100. And Picture Keeper, which is shown here, is a manual plug-and-play backup option. It's great for people who don't love anything having to do with technology because it really is plug and play, but still, I prefer an automated backup. Whatever you choose, just know that things are changing every day. What we're doing today to manage our photos is not what we did 10 and 15 years ago. It's not even what we did a year ago. So you do need to expect that things will change. Let me take a moment to show how all of these elements fit together by explaining where your photos start and end. So let's start by looking at the inputs to your collection, which are all things that we've been talking about. Your printed photos, disk drives, your phone, and maybe you even have a standalone camera. Then you add on your computer, which is the hub or the home of your photo solution. It can either be a PC or a Mac. Along with a computer, you'll also need the external hard drive. You'll see here the EHD to the left of your computer. And then you're also going to need some photo management software. I've already recommended that you use what came with your computer. And so Apple Photos and Microsoft Photos are going to be the 2 programs that most people have, and they are free. And you might have also heard of other software. There are dozens of them out there, if not hundreds. And so Adobe Lightroom is one that you might have heard of, but it is generally an advanced solution. Lightroom is kind of a knockoff brand that I've used. So while they can be great for photographers and really photographers, I wouldn't recommend either of those for beginners. Cloud storage is another important part of your photo solution to provide that third backup and to allow you to access your collection from nearly anywhere. There are different types of cloud services, and so I've outlined some of them here. Starting with the all-purpose drives that you've probably heard of, like Google Drive and Dropbox. They hold photos and other types of documents as well. Then you have computer backups. I just mentioned Carbonite and Backblaze, which are automated cloud backup solutions. Again, they store all of the contents on your computer, not just your photos. And then you've got photo apps like SmugMug and Chatbooks, which exist to hold and store your photos and turn them into books and other products. And then there are what I consider photo sharing services like Shutterfly and Amazon Photos. And these services focus on allowing you to share photos on social media or within family groups that you define. There is some crossover between photo apps and photo sharing apps. So they aren't necessarily as distinct as one versus the other. And then you've got the iCloud, which is generally specific to Mac users. With all of these elements in place, you can easily enjoy your photo legacy and share it in finished form as the kinds of things that you see on the right. So you might make photo books, or you might make slideshows for family events. We're now looking at our photos every day on our TV in many households. You can load them onto digital photo frames. And those are cool because you can even send photos across the mile right to grandma's digital photo frame. You can also create photo gifts like canvases and mugs. If you're an all Apple user, it's a little bit more of a simple picture because all of your devices and software are all within the Apple Photo and iCloud ecosystem. And this is what your solution would look like. Your phone and your Mac are generally paired. They generally talk to each other. And your external hard drive is going to run your Time Machine backup for Mac. And if you have a Mac and you're not using Time Machine, you haven't started backing up your Mac, you definitely want to start with that. All of your devices would have the same exact photos on them and videos because the Apple iCloud holds the originals and it syncs them back to each device in appropriate sizes. Whew, that was a lot. I hope you're still hanging with me, and I hope I've answered a few questions for you already. But remember,
still here, taking notes, Darla, still here.
Good, excellent. So remember, it's not just photos. You can collect and enjoy photos of your precious collection of many different types. And that includes art at any age. You might have family letters, vintage letters. You've got childhood keepsakes like trophies and medals, and maybe even newspapers. Now, we highly, highly recommend that you digitize these things, especially those impressive macaroni dinosaurs and preschool cereal artwork. You want to digitize those before they fall apart or become, as I like to call it, mouse food. So let's talk about sharing because that's really what you came for. Hopefully you're not overwhelmed with all of the options that you have, but now you know what you're up against. But there's no better time in history right now than to be sharing your photos. A lot of people want to organize their photos while they're safe at home. And while we're apart from family, we can still connect through the miles by sharing photos and videos. And in fact, you've probably already been doing that. And while we're missing our vacations right now, we can take some time to relive the travels and the voyages that we've already been on. Some of the ways that I love to share photos is by creating really sturdy photo albums. I myself have 2 young children at home, and they love to handle our vacation albums. Most kids under 10, think about it, we've only had digital photography for 10 or 15 years, and most kids under 10 have only ever seen their pictures in digital form. Many of them have never seen their picture in print. So there are tons of ways to share your photo, including slideshows, including I love to create and hang very polished gallery walls that include a mix of photos and artwork and keepsakes. You can create almost any kind of personalized gift these days just by adding a photo to a pillow, a mug, an ornament, or just about anything you can think of. And if you're a minimalist and you really don't want any of that, but you like to live simply, you can enjoy your photos through online photo galleries, which you can share with others by just clicking. So, and you can also create one-of-a-kind gifts from milestone moments right now to help people celebrate even while we're at a distance. And I think that's the most fun part of the whole project. So let me finish up with maintaining, because as long as you're taking pictures, you'll be maintaining them too. But keep it simple so you can spend your time on the fun stuff like making cat ornaments. I recommend setting a recurring appointment on your calendar that happens every month so that you can spend 15 to 30 minutes on maintenance for your photos every month. And you're going to do some simple steps like you see up here. Basically, you're going to check your accounts and your devices to ensure that all the photos are in fact going to the place that you want them to be stored in. You're going to gather any random photos that you didn't generate, things that came to you in email and text, because those photos don't automatically go onto your camera roll. And remember, delete, delete, delete. That delete key should be your best friend, and you can take 15 minutes a month to delete out the duds. Each month, you'll also want to mark your favorite photos by using the methods that's right for your software. It'll either be a heart, a star, a flag, or a tag. And of course, share your photos with somebody you love. If you remember nothing else from this today, remember that done is better than perfect. The 2 frameworks that I gave you, sort and succeed, along with the 5 steps of gather, organize, preserve, share, and maintain, work very nicely to help you overcome the feeling of being overwhelmed. Doing something with your photos is way better than doing nothing. I'd like to end with an invitation. I've given you a map today to get from a photo mess to a completed project. Hopefully you can actually dig in and use this map. But because this topic is both broad and deep, there's no possible way we can cover it all in just a few minutes. If you feel that you want to continue on, but you would really like to have sort of a, instead of a high-level map, you want more of a street-level view and maybe even a guide, then I invite you to check out the Save Your Photos with Sort and Succeed online course. This pre-recorded course from my company goes into much more detail than we possibly could go into here. It takes you through the steps of both organizing print and digital photos, and it guides you through the steps to make your own personalized print album. You can find the course at photos.heartworkorg.com. And if you do whether you sign up for the course or not, if you do take on your photo project, I hope that you'll get in touch because I'd love to hear when you get started on the most important organizing project that you'll ever finish. I'm sure you still have a few questions, and you're welcome to get a hold of me at darla@heartworkorg.com. I'm also going to stay in touch with the Radnor Memorial Library, and where they post this, which is going to be in a couple of different places, you are welcome to post your questions, and I'll be popping in from time to time to answer them. But if you need to get a hold of me, I'm at darla@heartworkorg.com. I hope that you're inspired to save your photos today. Thanks so much. And Pam, I know that you're still there. I've stopped my screen share.
Yes, I am.
So I am back on the screen here. Excellent. Tons of notes on your index cards. You're all ready to go. So I did read some of that. I wanted to make sure that I had all of my high points covered, and I didn't get into the details at all that would overwhelm people because, you know, there's a lot to talk about. As you can see, I love, love, love this topic. So Pam, maybe you have some questions and we can start there.
Well, I thought about, that was wonderful, Darla, really, just wonderful. And you inspire me.
Excellent.
On many levels.
That's exactly what we wanted.
On many levels. And I'm thinking about the closet. This is my spare room office. In that closet are books. We're talking physical photos. You know the books you made? Okay. We're not talking about those. Or at this point, do you start way back? That's what's overwhelming. Okay.
These are the old albums, right? Everybody's got these.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that where you start? I mean,
start by gathering all together. And you're right. If you have, let me put this down so it doesn't mess up my sound here. But if you have old photos like that, a lot of families, a lot of houses, they're in many different places. So like you said, they might be in a closet or a couple of closets, some of them down in the basement. Maybe yours are in the closet, but you know, your husband's are down in the basement.
Right.
Gather them all together and just take stock of what you have. And, you know, I'm big on the 80-20 rule. And very often clients will go through their collection and they'll find that maybe 80% of it is important, 20% of it right off the bat, they're like, yeah, this is trash. I don't know why we kept these old photos. So you can just very easily start there. I literally love to see the starting point be the dining room table. Just pull everything out, make groups like I described earlier, you know, printed photos over here, and then I got some frames over here, and I got some jump drives. We'll put those in a pile and lay it out on the dining room table just to see what you have before you start organizing it.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the pile on the floor here. Those are the boxes that aren't even in albums.
Right.
And I know I'm probably speaking for everybody out there that this is a project and it's been put on the back burner, and this is probably a very good time to get started. And in my computer, those are not even organized. So
Right.
I have a lot of organizing to do. I have another question.
Just what you just said, you know, that's exactly where everybody goes, right?
Right.
Oh, most of my photos are in albums, but then I have that pile that's not in albums, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about my digital photos. Like you have to really back off of that that thinking, because it can get very overwhelming all at once, right?
Right.
So start by, there's two schools of thought. One is you could start with your digital photos because they're kind of at risk if you don't have them backed up, and that's a great place to start. You know, if you're kind of techie and that feels good to you, you can absolutely start with your digital photos. I find that most of my clients like to start with things that they can put their hands on, because they can literally, you know, sort them, they can feel them, they can touch them, they can decide what the trash is. It's just easier. It's kind of like sorting socks, you know. It's pretty easy to sort your sock drawer because you can tell when you're done, right? You can tell that you have 10 or 20 or however many pairs of socks you have, and once you have them folded, they're done. So it's kind of the same thing with photos. A lot of clients, or a lot of people, when they say, you know, I can put my hands on these, I can sort them into years, I can put them in boxes, and I feel like I have a good collection, then they can move on to the digital, which can you know, be a completely different day, completely different week. It doesn't have to all be done at once. And the other thing I was going to mention to you, personally, I do not make albums, certainly not in the same way that we made them, you know, back in the day. Remember, we used to go to we'd buy film, and it was either 12, 24, or 36, right? And we would send it off, and we would wait for a week or two and get it back. And we'd throw away a handful of them because they were duds right out of the envelope, right? Well, at least mine were. So it was not so overwhelming. And then we used to put them in albums, right? Well, we had time to do that. Life just moves at a much faster pace these days. And I could take 24 photos before lunch today, you know? So it's a different pace. And I'll tell you, I don't make albums in the way that we used to. What I do is I make at least one important album for my family a year. And I have actually one sitting behind me. It's a digital photo album, and I'm not printing off pictures and putting them in pockets. What I'm doing is I'm actually designing a photo book. And those are the pictures that I had in the presentation of photo books that are, you know, they look like books. They look like actual books instead of pages with plastic over them, right? So you design it, you have that printed. You can print it very cheaply, or you can have an heirloom album made. It's kind of, you know, I always use the analogy. It doesn't matter to me necessarily whether you're shopping at IKEA or Ethan Allen. They're both great, right? But the price point is different and the quality is different, and you just have to know what you're buying. Photo books are very much the same way. If you just want a quick and dirty, you know, you just want the photos printed and you want to lay it out in a great little photo album, perfect. You can do that at the corner drugstore.
Yeah, and I was wondering, Darla, is there any, for people like me, I'm thinking, well, maybe now I want to reward myself a little bit and maybe inspire myself and just take one point in my life or one event, gather them, send them off to Apple, send them off to whatever company you mentioned, those companies forever that make books. Yeah. And I'm thinking, just do it for fun. It doesn't cost that much.
Absolutely.
And I thought, just send them off, tell a little story about yourself, get a package in the mail, and look at it and just say, wow. And that could be the catalyst for me anyway. It's like starting with dessert, okay?
Absolutely.
But reward yourself. Do a little book just for fun. Have it come in the mail, and then you think, wow, I could do this. I could get started, and this is my inspiration, which
That is a
started with
great idea.
Darla.
I love that. And it goes back to what I said earlier, if you stress about making the perfect book, you'll never make it. But if you just think about making a book that's good enough to tell some highlights, the book that I make every year for my family only has, I'll tell you this, a good book has between 20 and 300 photos, between 20 and about 300 photos, somewhere in there. So if you can find at least 20 photos that tell about that great trip that you took to Paris, or, what you looked like in high school, or just 2019.
Well, that's what I've
Any of that.
seen. I've seen, I visited someone, and right there on the coffee table was a book of a trip somewhere, and I picked it up, and that's all it was. It was just that point in time,
That trip.
and then that's what made me think now of maybe something we can do that for ourselves, for
Yeah.
our families, just as a little reward for,
Absolutely. And it's
because we
fun to
deserve
do,
it.
think about it this way too. It could be a fun project for your kids to work with you on during the pandemic. I
Right.
know a lot of people are doing, trying to figure out how they're going to mark this time in the pandemic. And we've been
Yeah.
at this, today is day 47, I think. I'm actually marking it on my calendar. So, over 47 days, I probably have taken 20 pictures of my kids doing silly things, right? Homeschooling, or sidewalk chalk that we've went out and walked, and the flowers are just gorgeous right now, right? So even though we're kind of stuck in time, the seasons are marching on. I probably have enough cute photos of our time in the pandemic to make, just a quick little book. It doesn't have to be the end
Right.
all be all, and we're not done yet, obviously. But even that could be a quick little project just to get people started. And like you said, it's
Right.
not a big investment. You can work with some of these companies like Shutterfly to make a book for as little as $20. And I'll tell you a secret:
Is
sometimes
there
they
one
give
that
them
you
away for
recommend?
free.
Is there one that you recommend?
There's all sorts of them, and I'm not going to recommend one over the other, because
Okay.
there's such a quality difference between the companies, and
Right.
in each company you also have different options for the books themselves. So
Right. And therein you've got, well, do you want glossy? Do you want this? So that in
exactly.
itself, again, is more choice.
Yeah. And I go into much more detail about all of those choices in the class. So if people are interested in that, I would recommend that they check out the online class at photos.heartworkorg.com.
Okay. Darla, thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation. It was very nice to see you again.
Thank you.
A
Absolutely. Now,
paperclip.
now, Pam, everybody's going to be jealous that you've got a paper clip, that you have a
Vintage.
giant clip.
Vintage. I should scan it. Put it in my computer.
You know what I should do? I didn't put like a special offer out there. Anybody who signs up for the photo organizing class and tells me that they want Pam's clip, I will mail you one. I will absolutely drop one in the mail.
Okay. Let's check in with my producer, my director.
Annie, do you have any questions?
Well, that was fantastic. I was listening as I was here with my little one and thinking how important this is going to be as baby Beatrix continues to grow up, and the bajillion pictures that I take of her on a regular basis.
Yes,
So I'm
indeed.
starting to plot. So thank you so
Excellent.
much, Darla.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you've never made a photo book before, having a new baby is often what gets you off the dime.
Absolutely.
Have you done that yet, Annie? Made a book?
I did start a baby book, so
Oh, good.
we'll
Good.
hopefully.
I love my baby book. I have the one my mom made.
Oh,
I
that's
love
so
it.
sweet. Yeah. And what we do a lot of times, Pam, you may find that those old vintage books, whether it's a baby book or your parents' wedding album, something like that, a lot of times they're not in great condition. So
That's right.
we can recreate it in a version that you can handle,
Oh,
and you
wow.
don't have to worry about that original item deteriorating any further.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's all sorts of things that you'll find when you get into your photo collection, and that's what I want people to take away. You know, don't get lost in the techie and the road bumps, the speed bumps. Just go and enjoy your photos, right? Because a lot of us haven't even been in our photos in a while. Go see what's there. Go share the funny things with your kids and post a couple of things on Facebook. Enjoy them. Have fun with them. That's why we take photos.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we are living in a virtual world, and who knew we'd be in this position? And I'm so grateful for all the audio and the video that we have out there.
Gosh,
And I don't have my phone handy, but hey, you carry your pictures everywhere you go. You're like carrying your story.
that's right.
And I'm
Yes,
so
I
glad
carry
you
my
brought-
cat everywhere I go. Photos are really just here to, you know, make the cats look better.
And the babies.
And the babies.
And the babies.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Annie and Darla. This was wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me on, and I look forward to questions that people might post when you post this out for the Radnor Memorial Library community.
I do too, and that's what we're doing here. We're building community. I can't wait to see you again, and we'll be in touch. And everybody.